2022. Throughout the history of the Christian Church, God has raised up men and women whose faith, courage, and obedience shaped the world in ways they could never have imagined. When you look back over the centuries, you see this long line of incredible people who, in their own unique time and place, allowed the gospel to transform them. And through them, entire cultures were changed. Their lives, their work, and their sacrifices create this beautiful tapestry of faithfulness that stretches all the way to today, and they continue to challenge and inspire believers everywhere. Vote. One of the earliest and most influential voices in this tapestry is Augustine of Hippo. He's often called one of the greatest Christian philosophers of all time. His writings shaped Christian theology for centuries, and their influence still reaches across different traditions today. His major works gave us profound insights into the nature of God and society, and they helped establish much of the doctrinal foundation that Christians still draw from. Augustine's contributions deeply shaped our conversations about sin, grace, salvation, and the sovereignty of God. But he was more than just a towering intellectual figure. He was also a pastor and an evangelist. He ministered during a time of great cultural upheaval, helping to provide clarity and stability as the Western world was going through dramatic changes. His ability to communicate the gospel to the people of his day helped strengthen a young church that was still discovering its identity. And while Augustine is especially honored in the Catholic tradition, his legacy extends far beyond any denominational lines. His humility, his passion for truth, and his commitment to understanding God continue to offer guidance to Christians all over the world. Centuries later, another formidable mind emerged, Thomas Aquinas. Born in Italy, Aquinas devoted his life to exploring the depths of theology, philosophy, and the nature of God. He produced an absolutely astounding volume of work, millions of words that are still foundational texts in Christian thought. His intellectual journey took him all the way from Italy to Paris, where he immersed himself in a new culture and language just to pursue a deeper theological understanding. Now, he wasn't a missionary in the traditional sense, but his willingness to step beyond his familiar surroundings showed a deep commitment to serving the church through rigorous study. Aquinas developed a systematic approach to Christian doctrine that shaped the church for generations. The church later recognized him as a saint and a doctor of the church, honoring the extraordinary depth of his work. And although his influence is most pronounced in Catholic theology, his dedication to a thoughtful, logical, and disciplined faith has inspired Christians from many different traditions. His legacy kind of parallels that of later Christian thinkers like C.S. Lewis, who also used their intellectual gifts to strengthen the faith of others. Fast forward to the age of global missions, and we meet William Carey. He's a pioneering figure whose work completely transformed our understanding of Christian outreach. He's often called the father of modern missions, and he was driven by this profound compassion for those who had never heard the gospel. Compassion led him to leave his home in England and devote his entire life to ministry in India. He carried a deep burden for the spiritual lostness of millions, and this burden shaped the whole direction of his life. Carey wasn't just a preacher. He was an innovator, a translator, a teacher, and a community builder. During his time in India, he helped translate the Bible into numerous languages, planted many churches, and established over 100 schools. He and his colleagues developed medical missions, social programs, and educational opportunities for local communities. They even introduced India's first printing press and contributed to technological and economic improvements that benefited everyone they served. Carey believed that sharing the gospel meant addressing both spiritual and physical needs, a holistic approach that remains incredibly influential in missions today. His life is just a powerful example of compassion in action. Another remarkable missionary figure was Hudson Taylor, whose work reshaped the spiritual landscape of China. Taylor founded an organization dedicated to reaching the vast interior regions of China, too, at a time when most missionaries just stayed in the coastal cities. His conviction was that every single person deserved to hear the gospel, no matter how remote their village was. This drove him to lead teams deep into the heart of the country. Taylor faced extreme challenges. China was often hostile toward foreigners and missionary activity. Disease, danger, and opposition were constant companions. Yet Taylor maintained this steadfast trust in God. He once said that anxiety accomplishes nothing, and that God could be trusted to place him exactly where he needed to be. This deep reliance on God sustained him through so many difficulties. Taylor also trained both foreign missionaries and Chinese believers, equipping them for long-term ministry. His writings and reports helped believers back in the West understand the critical importance of global missions. His life encourages us today to trust God completely and to love the people we are called to serve. Now, in the context of modern European history, Dietrich Bonhoeffer emerged as a powerful symbol of Christian courage during the rise of Nazi Germany. As the political atmosphere grew more and more oppressive, many religious leaders compromised their convictions. But Bonhoeffer refused to stay silent. He spoke boldly about the Church's responsibility to defend the oppressed, especially the Jewish people who were facing escalating persecution. He believed that silence in the presence of evil was a form of evil itself, an idea that continues to challenge the Church today. Bonhoeffer's writings emphasized the need for faithful obedience to Christ, even when it required great personal risk. His commitment eventually led him to join the resistance against Hitler, participating in efforts to end the tyrannical regime. This decision ultimately resulted in his arrest and execution. Bonhoeffer's legacy serves as a reminder that following Christ sometimes demands extraordinary courage and a willingness to stand against injustice, even at the greatest cost. The story of Christian influence, of course, extends right into our present day. One modern example can be seen in a family who moved to Hungary back in 2017 to serve as missionaries. Their ministry included working with Roma communities, providing food and practical assistance to families in need, visiting mental institutions, and just stepping into various forms of service wherever opportunities arose. Their journey was challenging. They moved frequently, experienced a lot of instability, and at one point even came close to homelessness. Yet, throughout all these hardships, they consistently experienced God's provision. Over several years, this family hosted groups of interns who served alongside them, creating these seasons of growth and unique challenges. Their work got even more complicated when the COVID pandemic struck, disrupting their ministry and forcing the interns to return home. Then, just as things began to stabilize, the war in Ukraine erupted. Living near the border placed them right at the center of a massive humanitarian crisis. They participated in extensive refugee relief efforts, providing food, supplies, compassion, and spiritual encouragement to those fleeing the war. Biggs also used worship and performance outreaches to share hope with people who were in profound need. As the refugee situation evolved, their ministry shifted again to other areas, including work with governmental leaders and the Jewish community. Their ongoing commitment to serving both Hungary and Israel reflects a deep dedication to God, calling and a desire to impact lives with the love of Christ. When you look at them all together, the lives of Augustine, Aquinas, Carey, Taylor, Bonhoeffer, modern missionaries, you see this powerful pattern of God working through his people across generations. These individuals lived in different eras, they spoke different languages, and they faced vastly different challenges. Yet every single one of them devoted themselves fully to God's purpose in their lives. Their stories show us that God's call is incredibly diverse. Some are thinkers, others are teachers. Some are missionaries, some are reformers, and some just serve faithfully and quietly right where God puts them. But all of them share a common heartbeat, a deep love for God and a burning desire to see his kingdom advance. Today's believers, That's you and me. We stand in this long line of those who came before. Their courage calls for our courage. Their passion calls for our passion. Their sacrifice invites us to live boldly in obedience to God's calling on our own lives. May future generations be just as inspired by the faithfulness they see in our lives, just as we are strengthened and encouraged by the amazing examples of those who walked this path before us. Thanks for watching. This story inspired you. Please consider liking and subscribing for more content that explores faith throughout history. See you next time.